You're talking to someone, a coworker, maybe someone you actually like, and they ask you a simple question. And for a split second, you make eye contact. 1 second, maybe less, and then your gaze just drifts to the table, to your phone, to absolutely nothing. And some part of you is aware of what just happened, but you can't quite stop it. If that feels weirdly familiar, stay with me, because there's a lot more going on beneath that small, quiet habit than most people realize. We tend to assume that avoiding eye contact is about dishonesty, or coldness, or just plain rudeness. Or maybe shyness, maybe. That's the cultural shorthand we've been given. If someone won't look you in the eye, they must be hiding something, or they simply don't care. But psychology tells a much more nuanced story, and honestly, a much kinder one. For a lot of people, avoiding eye contact has nothing to do with deception. It has everything to do with feeling too much. Think about what eye contact actually requires. You're not just looking at someone, you're being looked at simultaneously. It's a two-way exposure. And for people who carry even a baseline level of social anxiety, that exchange isn't neutral, it's loaded. The moment someone's eyes are on yours, the brain can interpret that as scrutiny, as evaluation. And suddenly you're not just having a conversation, you're also being observed having a conversation. That's a lot to manage at once. Some people describe it as an overwhelming amount of information hitting them at the same time. The words, the tone, the facial expression, the meaning behind the expression, what the other person might be thinking, all of it arriving simultaneously. And the eyes are the most intense part of that. There's a reason we say the eyes are the windows to the soul. They carry everything. For emotionally sensitive people, looking directly into that can feel startlingly intimate, even with someone they trust. And so they look away, not because they're bored, not because they're lying, but because looking away gives the nervous system just enough breathing room to actually think. Here's something that doesn't get said enough. A lot of people who struggle with eye contact are also the ones who are thinking the hardest. They're not checked out of the conversation. They're so in it that they need to reduce some of the sensory load just to process properly. The wall behind you isn't actually interesting. They've just found that staring at it is the only way to hear what you're saying without their brain short-circuiting. Then there's self-consciousness, this quiet, constant monitoring of yourself from the outside. People who overthink social interactions are often running a kind of internal surveillance camera the whole time. How am I coming across? Did that thing I just said land weird? Did my face do something strange just now? And when you're that busy watching yourself, maintaining eye contact feels like trying to drive while reading the manual for the car. It's just too many things at once. For some, this traces back further, to childhoods where they learned to read the room very carefully, where they became finely tuned to the moods and reactions of the people around them, where being looked at sometimes preceded something difficult, and the nervous system remembers that, even long after the circumstances have changed. Hypervigilance doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just quietly shows up as someone who glances away every few seconds, scanning, resetting, making sure things are still safe. Low self-confidence plays into it too. When you don't fully trust that the person in front of you sees you positively, their gaze can feel like a mirror you're not ready to stand in front of. There's a particular kind of vulnerability in being seen, really seen, and some people haven't yet arrived at a place where that feels okay. So they borrow distance, a slight turn of the head, a look toward the floor. It's protective. It's not arrogant, and it's not dismissive. It's someone trying to get through a moment that feels more exposed than it looks from the outside. Introverts often experience this too, not because they're antisocial, but because social interaction already requires a certain expenditure of energy. Eye contact intensifies that. It deepens the connection, which is beautiful, but also more draining. They're not pulling away from you, they're just quietly managing how much they can hold. And then there are people who experience something almost paradoxical. They care so deeply about the conversation that the eye contact becomes too heavy. The stakes feel too high. Making eye contact while discussing something emotional can sometimes tip someone from engaged into overwhelmed, so they look away to stay present, not to leave. What's worth sitting with is this. Avoiding eye contact is one of those behaviors we so easily misread. We see the surface and we assign a motive. but the motive is rarely what we assume. Most of the time, behind that averted gaze is a person who is thoughtful, sensitive, self-aware, maybe a little anxious, someone who is doing their quiet best inside a moment that feels like more than it should. So maybe the next time someone looks away mid-conversation, we can resist the instinct to take it personally. And maybe, if you're the one who looks away, you can offer yourself the same grace. It doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you're cold or disconnected or strange. Sometimes avoiding eye contact just means you're feeling everything a little too deeply to let it all the way in at once. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. Subscribe and like. See you in the next one.